Hi. Um, I'm here to talk about our daughter Mariah Archibeque's book. Um, Sorry, it's so crazy and hectic over here. Um, there's too much crap over there. Like really. Ugh. Kind of funny, people seeing me do this. Um, Anywho, trying to clean up this mess over here. Should have done that before I went live, right? Oh my gosh. Anywho, I think that was Anyways, um, I'm here to talk about my daughter's book, and I don't know if any of you have watched my videos, probably not, but just trying to get it out there that she wrote a book, a really good book, and her son Steven did the cover, and I know there's a lot of people that do videos on YouTube, and some of them, are interesting, and some of them are not. Um, like those people that say that, actors or singers, whatever, passed away and then find out they're not dead. Yeah, I like to talk about other people, but that's okay. But then there are those that, have interesting things to talk about, like the real stuff in the world, like, the orange little douchebag that's in the White House, destroying everything, destroying the world, and going after, different countries that haven't even attacked our country. Um, aren't you supposed to teach people that when people attack you, you're supposed to defend? I mean, Iran or Iran has every right to defend themselves. So does Ukraine. They have every right to defend themselves. Gotta give them props. Then you got an idiot running our country. I'm sorry that we have this bastard running our country because he is one. And, you know, he doesn't have the brains at all to do anything. He has to have people do it for him. That's why he hides behind so many people. He does. Have you noticed that he can't even go out into public himself because he knows that, if he goes out in public, he's probably going to be arrested for all the crap he's done. Which he should be arrested. But that's besides the point. Um, he doesn't have enough brains to write a book. I mean, Mariah wrote her book when she was 9. She worked on it for 2 years, and she was sick for 2.5 years. Probably even before that. Doctors didn't know. I mean, she was diagnosed at 17 after her 17th birthday. I mean, in May 2022. I mean, that was a great birthday present for her, which it's not. You know, Ewing sarcoma is around. There's a lot of people that get it, young people, even little kids, little babies. And some doctors say it's rare. Well, there's like thousands and thousands of people that I have seen on Facebook through these groups that I'm in. The Ewing sarcoma cancer group, some people have lived with, and some people have not. And, one of Mariah's doctors said that pediatrics only gets 1% of funding, and people out there in the world, some of them seem to think that, oh yeah, we got enough funding for these kids, and our kids are going to be taken care of. No, they're not. And that's why they ask for help, ask for funds to help these kids. And everybody else is worried about what, okay, I'm going to follow along with Trumpkin and what he says, and we're just going to be like dodo birds, like on Ice Age, and follow him off a cliff. Why do you want to follow a child rapist? I mean, come on. Why do you want to follow somebody that hates people because of what color they are, where they come from? Did you know his wife is brown? Have you seen his wife? She's brown, okay? She's not even from here. She was on a Epstein visa. I think that's what it is. And to me, I think she's one of those people that he ordered, from a website, like a child bride or something. Because you know what? She was partying with him when he was married to his second wife, ex-wife. It's kind of interesting how he has his first ex-wife buried in his golf course. I mean, even his kids, must be happy, knowing their mom is buried in a golf course, and every time he hits the ball, he can hit her grave, right? If there was a way for people to haunt people after they pass away, I'm sure there are some people that do that. I mean, nobody knows what the afterlife is like. I mean, I've seen a ghost myself. I mean, I've seen an angel. I've seen different things, and people would think I'm crazy. But there's a lot of people out there that have similar things happen to them. Weird stuff happened in their home. But we don't know what the afterlife is like. I mean, we don't know if they're happy or what. I mean, to me, I don't think Mariah's happy where she's at. Why would they be happy away from their families? Why? I mean, after going through so much pain and heartache, they're on the other side and they're like, we're trying to get back and they can't. If anybody knows how to talk to people, on the other side, and you can actually hear them and see them, I would like to know how to do that, because I would love to talk to family members like that. But if they're going to be assholes from the other side, I don't want to talk to them, because, sometimes family members can be assholes. They can be. Anyways, Mariah, she wrote this book because she was ridiculed in school. She was made fun of. She was threatened. These two girls were friends of hers, and then this boy got in the middle. He dumped one of her friends and then went to the other friend, and Mariah was stuck in the middle. And the other girl that got dumped, she threatened Mariah. She said she wanted to kill her. She sent her text messages. Me and my husband saw them, and she cried. She was like, I know who this is. I don't understand why she's doing this to me, because I'm trying to be friends with both. And, it's not my fault that this boy dumped her and went to my other friend. I mean, I didn't get involved in that. And, Ryan was kind of friends with the boy too, but I didn't really trust him, Even though they were in middle school, it's like, why do you start dating in middle school? It just causes problems with people. It really does. And Mariah didn't deserve to get threatened. She didn't deserve that at all. And she put a lot of her anger into her book. And this is our son Steven's book, I think. Nope, this is mine. Oh wait, it's Maiden's, her younger daughter's book. Anyways, she won't mind if I look at it. It shows the cover that Steven did, and it's really cool because he does a lot of artwork that's really, really good. And even though he says he's not good, he really is. I mean, there's so many things that he's drawn, painted. If you look on For Myself, it's a website where people that do art, they can post their art on there for free. And some of his art is on there. And eventually I will post a lot of his art on here, because that way people can see what he's done. But this is also inside the book. Me and Mariah also talked about adding extra stuff in her book, because, She wanted extra stuff. She wanted a hardback book, but Make-A-Wish said it's a lot cheaper to do it this way. But she did, she deserves to get a hardback book. She did a lot of work on this book, and um, after she was made fun of, ridiculed, whatever, threatened in middle school, she was also made fun of in high school, where she walked, talked, and dressed. She wasn't one of those type of girls that would, go out and dress like show her stomach, or you know dressed all like, I hate to say it, some people dress like trampish. She wasn't like that. She was very casual. She wore casual clothes. She loved hoodies. You know, she loved wearing pink at times, or purple. She loved green. Um, she was the one that held us all together, and she had a lot of strength and courage, even though she doubted herself a lot, and she was embarrassed because she went from being able to walk to being able to use a walker to being in a wheelchair, and then eventually she was homebound. Why would a teenager, a kid, even a little tiny little baby, why would they want to go through that shit? Why? No person should go through that, except for, those who seem to think that, okay, people that have kids in pediatrics, they get a lot of money. Why don't you go to the hospital and talk to the nurses and some of the doctors and those kids who say, especially the kids, and they say, there's not enough medicine to help me with pain and help me live. There's not enough money to help my family come and take me to the hospital when I need to, like gas, food, whatever. And sometimes these kids don't even have families that visit them. Sometimes, I saw the nurses taking care of these kids when their parents had to go out and they had to go eat and get food for their kid, or even do laundry and stuff like that. Because there's a cancer fund that they have, but it's through charity. It's through people that care, and they donate their money and their time to help people like that. And then you got Child Life, where they get donations of like toys, art stuff, clothes, um, different things, books. They did a lot of crafts with the kids. They would have stuff for like Thanksgiving. I remember Mariah was in the hospital for Thanksgiving, and it sucked because all she wanted to do was be around our family. And my mom, she brought Thanksgiving dinner to the hospital. And Child Life, they were doing stuff for Thanksgiving, and I went to go get Mariah some food, and And I remember for her last birthday, she was in the hospital again. She wasn't feeling too good. Her body was hurting so bad, and she had radiation. She had to get suppositories and enemas, because she was backed up. I know some people are going to be like, why are you talking about this? Well, people out there need to know the struggles and the heartache and pain that these kids go through. And doctors kept pushing, pediatrics hospice on Mariah. She didn't want to do it. So she got pushed into it. And because she was 19, she was the only one that could make the decisions for herself, which I thought was bullcrap. They didn't even give me power of attorney over her. They didn't offer that. And I tried so hard. Me and my husband were like telling Mariah, if you want to go back in the hospital, you can go back in the hospital. We'll call 911. And her nurse talked to the doctor from the pediatrics hospice, and she said, there's no point. They're not going to do nothing for her. They don't have the medicines that we have. Well, the medicines they had was hydromorphone and Versed, which is another name. And they put her on that, and she was on ketamine. She took that like 6 times. She was on gabapentin, oxybutyrin. She was on Benadryl time. She was on Zofran. She was on stuff that had to help her go to sleep. And she used CBD THC oil, which helped her with the pain. And she, the last few weeks of her life, it was 3 weeks, she was going downhill. She went from being able to eat to not eating, to drinking to not drinking. There's the trash people. They have a hard time coming through because there's a gate. A gate that blocks people from driving in and out where we live because it's crazy. But anyways, Mariah had a heart of gold, and she was very creative. She was very loving, and she didn't like to see other people get hurt or be in pain. There were moments where I told her that our youngest daughter, Maiden, was being made fun of by some person. I'm not going to name names because this person, she said that Maiden looked like the alien from Mac and Me, and she has microcephaly. She's kind of petite, and she has a small head. Like her head is not like normal, almost 7-year-old size. So this person made fun of her, and I told my husband that that person had no right talking about our daughter like that. You shouldn't talk about children that have disabilities or illnesses or what they look like. You shouldn't make fun of them. They were born that way. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have had kids that have microcephaly and they have disabilities to where they have mood swings and they have, they get frustrated and they don't understand certain things. People with disabilities, they get cast aside a lot, and people with illnesses. And it's wrong. And it's messed up, And Mariah wrote this book to inspire people and let them know that they're not alone, because she went through being made fun of. She went through being sick. She went through being being a very creative person and loving and caring and funny. She was a smartass. She loved watching Mike and Molly. She loved the Golden Girls. She loved watching Enchanted. She loved watching Frozen. She loved watching Coco. She loved watching Raya and the Last Dragon. She loved watching Descendants. Is that what it is? Descendants? I'm asking you because you probably don't know what I'm talking about. I think it is called Descendants. Isn't it called Descendants? That Disney show, movies she liked was Descendants, and it had 3 parts. And I think it had Cameron Boyce in it. She loved those movies, and she got me into it. She loved watching Hairspray. She loved musicals, but she loved to write. And she wrote so many good stories, and she said, some of them didn't get finished, and she kind of scrapped those, but she wrote 3 songs. And yes, they are about pain, being hurt, But if you read her book, there's a quote she wrote, It's okay to be different because our differences are what make us who we are. And we put this wallpaper. No, we got it. I think it was from Zedge or something, and we put it in there. So it wasn't created by Mariah. It wasn't created by me or anybody in my family. It was just one of those wallpapers that we thought would represent Mariah and what she would have liked because she loved butterflies, she loved roses, and um, she has a quote, and this was her quote: "You can't make a butterfly into something ugly," meaning you shouldn't be something you're not. And she had a way with words, and we dedicated this book to her, and it says this book, The End of the Rose, dedicated to Mariah for all she went through, having Ewing sarcoma and cancer, how Mariah fought and never gave up. Mariah wrote The End of the Rose to inspire those to feel that they are not alone. There's about her, it says, "Hello, my name is Mariah Archibeque, and I have been writing my own stories for as long as I can remember. This book is the only one I dreamed about getting published, mainly because some of them are unfinished or scrapped. I was inspired to write this story partially based on my life. Growing up, I was picked on, and I had no idea how to deal with it. But that was until people told me that I am a strong, independent young woman. I am 19 years old, and the story holds a special place in my heart. One of the quotes I came up with that reminds me of this story is, you can't change a butterfly into something ugly. In other words, you shouldn't be something you are not. This story reminds me of one of the main characters in this book, which would be none other than Kia Lansky. In conclusion, the story is something I'm very proud of writing and one that I admire." And that is her. That's when she was like 16, I think, or 15. But there's another picture of her when she graduated high school. And she thought she was ugly. And I'm like, girl, you are freaking gorgeous. I mean, she was beautiful. And I'm not just saying that because she was, my daughter and my husband's oldest daughter. I'm just saying because she was. I mean, she is one of the reasons why I started going back to school. And my husband and our other kids, inspired me to do that too. And she always wanted to go to college. She said, "Hey, Mom, it would be funny if me and you went to college together because we were watching a Melissa McCarthy movie. Not Identity Thief. It was a different one." So when she goes to college with her daughter, I can't remember the name, but but you should read this book because when you read it, you'll be like, wow, she wrote this really? Like, we've gotten compliments by so many people that have bought her book and said, wow, your daughter was 19. She wrote this. And they have read it over and over again. I mean, it's for anybody that wants to read it. It doesn't matter where you come from, who you are. You can read this. And she didn't pinpoint and point out characters of what they are, because why do that? Who cares? Who really cares? As long as you're happy and you're happy with who you are and being a good person, and not hating on someone. There's so much hate in the world, and Mariah was one of those people that was against hate. And me and my husband always taught our kids not to hate on people because we've all been there, where we've lost our homes or, almost homeless or, being part of the LGBTQ community or, you're black, you're brown, you come from different countries, or and there's there's all these cultures that have beautiful people in it. I don't know what culture Trumpkin falls into, because there's no orange culture. I mean, unless you have jaundice. I mean, he's so orange, he's oranger than a jaundice person. That's how orange he is. And he's fat and ugly. And he thinks he has the right to make fun of people. He reminds me of Jabba the Hutt if he was on crack and heroin. And so he has no room to make fun of anybody. He has no room to say how much they weigh or what they look like. I mean, because I bet you his wife doesn't even eat. I mean, she was groomed to be his wife. Think about that. She was like 17 years old when she met him. And all the sickness that he said. There's other people that have podcasts or whatever they are. I'm not going to name names, but you probably know who I'm talking about. They talk about sexual things in a bad way. And it's okay to joke with, family members, when you're with them, when you're an adult. But when you're trashing somebody on your podcast or whatever it is and degrading them, and then you have some of these celebrities that go on there and they're sitting there talking and they're probably like, okay, I don't know how to talk about this or that, but I don't even know how people go on to people's podcasts or whatever like that. It's not cool. And then, Mariah wasn't like that. She didn't make fun of people. I mean, she was in the hospital and she got pissed that somebody talked bad about her baby sister. And she was pissed about people picking on her baby brother. I mean, she was like, Mom, nobody's picking on my brothers and not picking on my baby sister, because I will find a way to walk out of this hospital and beat the crap out of them, even though I can't. She couldn't walk. But she still had the strength to sit up and say, Mom, that's not going to happen with my siblings. No. And nobody's going to talk bad about my mom or my dad. Nobody's going to talk about my friends. Nobody's going to be like that. She was my hero. All these kids that go through so much crap when they're sick, there's kids that get made fun of because what they look like or what kind of clothes they wear. I mean, sometimes parents can't afford the certain clothes that other kids have or the things that other kids have. What'd be nice is if the things that rich people have, people that have low incomes could afford it. Because we're the ones that get the crap end of it. And rich people don't. They have it lucky. They have a silver spoon in their mouth. I mean, look at the Kardashians. They're getting rich by being on TV. Okay, why don't you do something that's more educational or more interesting and not like, oh my God, I just had a Botox and I can't smile. I even had it done, a butt surgery, so my butt can actually look round. I had that done. If you weren't born with a round ass, that's on genetics. That's on genetics. I mean, I feel like Mariah's around me right now just by saying that. People do that. Like some women, they'll be like, my butt's too flat, but I gotta make it rounder. Sorry you weren't born with a round ass. I mean, look at Kim Kardashian. Or what was her name? Nicki Minaj. She had surgery on her ass. Really?
Yeah, because she didn't want to put in the work.
Yeah, because she didn't want to put in the work. Cardi B. She's one that looks kind of like Selena Quintanilla. And she was born that way, you know? You can't change that. And I think Nicki Minaj is jealous of Cardi B. I mean, Cardi B is funny. She's a good mom. I'm watching you. She's a good mom. That was our youngest daughter, Megan. Sorry. I just think that you should realize how stupid some people are. You know, some rich people, they're dumb. But then you got people like Kelly Clarkson and Pink. You know, Pink donated, I think, $1 million to a hospital. And it was her mom's so that they can have enough supplies and stuff like that. It was cool. Jennifer Lopez, she donated money to Puerto Rico, you know. There's people like that. Even Lucy Lawless, her and her husband actually helped in New Orleans when Hurricane Katrina happened. How come nobody really helped with that? You know, you see people floating on their fucking roofs and shit, and you're like, no, it sucks to be them because I'm not them. We don't even help our own people. And then they send our troops out to other countries and saying, well, they're defending our country. Really? Then how come we feel so naked without protection right now? Do you realize that other countries could bomb us right now while our military is in other countries, which some countries don't even want them there? You know, people in the military they're not even protected either. They're just used as little pawns. Look at what Trumpkin's doing. He's using them as pawns. You know, if you're in the military and you want to follow along with what Trumpkin's doing, that's pathetic. Really pathetic. I mean, do you know how many lives were lost in Iran? Do you know how many lives were lost in Venezuela? Do you know how many lives were lost in Ukraine? Do you know how many lives were lost, period? Because in every country, yeah, there's people that could be bad and horrible and stuff like that. But there's also innocent people. So, you know, you can't hate on the whole country like Russia, because there are some people in Russia that are against what Putin's doing. And there's people in our country that are like for that. They're for what Trumpkin's doing. So you're for kids like Mariah, who wrote a book, by the way. Kids like Mariah who are being sick and they need money to help live and be able to do what they wanted to. You're for Trumpkin taking the cancer fund away. You're for Trumpkin taking Medicaid and Medicare away. You're for him taking Social Security away. You're for him to take basically everything freaking away from you. That is wrong. And even though we may not have much, we still stand up for those that didn't deserve to have their lives taken. They didn't deserve to have their stuff taken. Because one of these days, whoever's with Trumpkin, one of these days, your stuff is going to be gone. You're going to be on the street, and then you're going to be crying to people like me that are not for Trumpkin and be like, yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that he was doing this. No, it's on you. It's not on us. And then now the gas prices are going up because Trumpkin just bombed Iran and just blocked them from sending oil here, right? Now all the oil on our land, where we live, you know, United States, we're going to be sucked dry. Our oil is going to be gone. Then what are you going to do? Cry wolf? Are you going to cry to the people that are Democrats? You know, there's some Democrats that deserve to go to jail. I admit that. But you're going to complain to blue states. We don't give a shit. Okay? You treat us like shit, we're gonna treat you like that. Karma is a bitch. And Renee Nicole Good did not deserve to get murdered. Alex Petty didn't deserve to get murdered. None of those people that were deported and treated like crap, and some of them probably did get killed. I don't know about that. But they didn't deserve that either. And I'm glad the state I'm in is fighting against Trumpkin, fighting to get those files open more. Because if you're innocent, why are you hiding behind those files? Why are you protecting them? You must have your name on there. Like, you have your hand in the cookie jar, but you don't want to get it out and show everybody what you did. That is a good freaking saying. I should write that down. I'll probably forget it later. But anyways, I'll probably rewind this and watch myself again. I don't really like watching myself because I think sometimes myself talks too damn much. But anyways, I suggest you go get this book. It's for anybody. I wouldn't recommend it for, kindergartners, maybe 11, 12, they can read it, and the words are big enough for you to read. Okay? We made sure the words were big enough because sometimes when people do books, they're so teeny tiny and you need a magnifying glass. I need to learn how to talk first. But this book is about a peculiar young girl decided to venture into a forest on a soulless night when all things were broken and not found. Near a river, she discovers a magical aura surrounding a mysterious abandoned cottage. She leaves the forest and returns home, but she plans to go back to the forest another time. She returns to her royal kingdom and is ostracized because she is different from the other children. But even the purest hearts can be darkened, and even the light within them can turn into something evil. Maybe even a creature so powerful you'll never sleep again. This is where the story begins. If you want to know about some of this book, there's other videos I've done, and I've read some of this book. I read it up to the 8th chapter. It's hard for me to get past that because, being a mom, losing, mine and my husband's oldest daughter, is him being a dad. It's hard, especially when you love your kids so much. And, Mariah was our strength. She was the one that, I can turn to and talk to her about anything. And she can talk to me. And you should be like that with your kids. Like, they can come to you about anything. It doesn't matter, what it is. And we try to do that. And sometimes we disagree with our kids, It's a normal thing. Kids disagree with us, But we are very proud of Mariah for writing this book because, after she passed away, she knew she was going to have her book published. She was so excited. And we promised her that it would get finished. And when it did, in the first book that we saw, this lady from Make-A-Wish brought it, and City Book Publishing published it. And she was like, does everything look okay in the book? And is there anything you wanted to add? And we added a few more things in it. And we didn't change anything that Mariah wrote because these were her words. And you shouldn't change somebody's words, like that, unless they want it changed. And Steven, our older son, he wants to do a book with pictures in it. And I think that's a great idea. But he's so busy writing his horror stories and different stories, on his Chromebook. He's been doing for like the last couple of years. He says he has about 14 or 20 stories on there. I don't know, but could be more than that. And he needs some of them published, and we don't really have the money to help him with that. But if anybody is willing to help with getting any of his books published, like Mariah's got it through Make-A-Wish, and it was a unique wish. And one of the wishes she wanted was to go to WrestleMania, and she wanted to meet Bray Wyatt, but Bray Wyatt wasn't at WrestleMania because he was sick. He wasn't feeling too good, and then he came back. And I think it's messed up. Vince McMahon fired him. Really, he was the most creative wrestler in WWE. And a lot of people say that. He wrestled in the dark with LA Knight. And LA Knight will always have that. One of the last match that Bray Wyatt did. And, it's sad that he wasn't put out there more. And I don't know if his family watches YouTube or not, but for me and our family, our hearts go out to Bray Wyatt's family, Wyndham Rotunda. That's so cool. I love his name, Wyndham Rotunda. I mean, he was named after his uncle and his uncle's last name, and then his dad's last name. That's really cool. And Bray Wyatt deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And I don't know why they haven't done it yet. Or if they have, because I forgot, But if they haven't, he deserves to be. And put China in the WWE. Seriously, if I had to talk to Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, I would be like, look, she was screwed over, okay? Joni Lauer, a.k.a. China, was screwed over by Vince McMahon. She was forced to have surgery on her chin. She looked good like she did before that. She wasn't happy. She had to dress like a certain way. And basically pushed out of WWE. She paved the way for a lot of these women nowadays. There hasn't been a woman that's won 2 Intercontinental Championships that were men's. She fought a lot of men. And a lot of women wrestlers nowadays don't. And if China was here in her prime and she was in WWE, I guarantee you she would be winning belts like crazy. And some would argue that, but a lot of them don't. And there's this woman who's her name is Sarah Page, and she does bodybuilding and stuff like that. And she's been in like different competitions and stuff like that. She looks like China. I mean, Joni Lauer. She does. I mean, she can even play Xena if she wanted to. She'd be like a muscular Xena, but she'd be great in WWE. She'd be China number 2. And she's the one that's been getting her name out there more. I mean, she's been pushing it because Joni Lauer deserves to be remembered as an amazing wrestler. She was a good actress. She was funny on Third Rock from the Sun. And, I watched her on Dr. Oz Celebrity Rehab, and she didn't seem happy at all. It's like Dr. Oz was like pushing her to talk about stuff she didn't want to. And then there was Chester from Linkin Park. He was on there too. It's like Dr. Oz did not save them. He didn't help much. He just made it worse. It's like there's these people that come out for help, and you're just over there like blah, 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 blah. So, if anybody's going through loss and going through being sick or being made fun of or whatever you're going through, This book with it's a good book to read, and it helps you escape that. It really does because you're like, wow, I can really relate to that, you know. And Mariah was made fun of a lot, and she was a beautiful young woman. She was in between being a girl and a woman. It's like that Britney Spears song, I'm not a girl, not yet a woman. I mean, she was 19. She didn't get to go to college. She didn't get to get married and have kids like she wanted to. She even had names for her two kids, a boy and a girl. I can't remember their names, but she had that all taken from her. And all we have is her stuff that's left behind. All the memories, pictures, I look at pictures of her and it makes me mad. It makes me so mad that I promised her, I wrote a poem for her and I read it to her, and I promised her, even if she goes, I'll still stand up for her and anybody that's sick or being bullied or having a hard time. And people need to start talking about Ewing sarcoma cancer more. I mean, they talk about other cancers. They need to bring up all these kids' cancers that they get, young people. I mean, it's sad. I mean, reading those stories that people lost their child or they're the ones that have it, and doctors are saying there's no cure. There's no cure for Ewing sarcoma cancer. If there was more money put into science to find a cure, because scientists are trying to find a cure. It's a protein in our body that everybody has, and it causes Ewing sarcoma cancer at times. Mariah was metastatic, meaning it was all over her body. Why does she have to go through pain and suffering? That's so young. She's so young. She's forever 19. And it's devastating. I can't even get myself to go to her grave because to me, I don't think she's there. Plus, it's hard to face it. Plus, I don't know if she has a headstone yet because it's been 2 years almost next month. And she deserves to have one. But tombstones are expensive. So, when people die and they want this stuff, some of them cost about $3,000, probably $10,000 or more if you want a nice one. And then you have to pay for funeral costs, which is like $10,000. Like, come on. A loved one just passed away and you're going to charge up the ass for this stuff. And then you got to pay for the plot. See, I want to be cremated. I don't want to be trapped in the ground. I want to be with my kids and my husband, That's what I want to do, is I want to be with them, have them have lockets and whatever of my ashes. And that's what I want. Not only that, because it's cheaper, like just put my ashes in a box and just put me on top of a fireplace. I'll be fine. If you get my ashes confused with ashes in a fireplace, well, that's on you because, it's kind of like, married with children, Those kids went to go get ashes from the neighbors and they poured it in the, that thing, the barbecue thing, the grill, sorry. They put this dead person's ashes in the grill so that Al wouldn't find out. And then once they started eating, it was funny. Oh my gosh, that's funny. But anyways, I talk too much, and I really want to talk about Mariah because she was a human being, and she mattered, and she still matters, and people are gonna know what she went through because, like I said, there's a lot of family members that have had loved ones go through the same thing, and when you get urine sarcoma cancer, it affects your bones and your tissue. And she went from walking on her tippy toes. She lost so much weight. She went from 170 pounds from October 2021 to 2022. Of April, she weighed 123 pounds. And we thought she was losing weight because she was so stressed by doing her school with Ingenuity, and you had to get 100% every time, or else you had to start all over again. And that wasn't fair. I think Ingenuity is stupid. We thought, she wasn't eating because of that. No. Doctor said it might be potassium. No. On April 29th, she had an MRI, she had a X-ray, and the doctors said that it looks like it's a big mass inside of her hip. It went all the way to her lower back. And she got skinny. And then the doctors, she went from being at Presbyterian didn't, and then she was transferred to UNM Pediatrics, and they helped her out a lot. She started gaining weight. She started looking good. She was eating. She had 14 rounds of chemo. She had 6 weeks of radiation. I mean, she was doing good. The last time she was in the hospital, she had radiation on her shoulders and her lower back. And then I don't know what the radiation did, because they didn't tell me. Her doctor came in and said, "Do you want to know the results of, the scans she had?" And she was like, "No." I didn't want to know. Because the moment that doctor would told Mariah, there's nothing else we can do. Because it seemed to me that's what she was going to say. And it's like, you're sitting there in my daughter's face and you're going to tell her that she's going to die. Because not enough funding to find a cure. Not enough funding. So basically, since there's not enough funding to find a cure, this doctor worked for science and stuff, and she's sitting there. She had told Mariah at one of her appointments, reason why they can't find a cure because not enough funding. There's not. And there needs to be funding to find a damn cure because these kids deserve to live. Because otherwise, us family members have to bury our kids, our loved ones who are sick like that because there's no cure. Isn't that kind of like murder? Oh, we're just going to let you die because we just don't have the right thing to help you. Sorry, we're not going to put enough money into it. We're just going to let you die. I blame doctors for not fighting hard enough. I blame our country for not putting more funding into finding cures for diseases. That matters more than freaking what you look like. I am sick and tired of people in our country saying that there's enough funding for kids. There's not. 1%, her doctor said. Mariah's doctor said 1% goes to pediatrics. And like I said, why don't you go to those hospitals and see how sick those kids are, how much in pain and suffering they go through. Mariah suffered when she died. She didn't die pretty peacefully at home. When she was part of a pediatrics hospice, she suffered. And you know what the weird thing is? Before she passed away, I checked on her at 6 o'clock in the morning. Her blanket was rolled into a ball. How did she do that when she was in so much pain? On the other side of her. Put her oxygen back on her. 8 o'clock. Checked on her again. I told my husband I was going to put some oil on her because, she's like having oil on her every night, every day. So she had the blanket rolled into a ball again. Her oxygen was off. She looked kind of comatose to me, like she had tears coming down her face. She had a black dot in one of her eyes, over her pupil. Gave her mouth to mouth. My husband told me to call 911. I did that. They used some plastic fucking machine to pump her heart, and I kept saying, she's on ketamine. She had ketamine the night before. She's had it a few times. Not on the same day. They told me and my husband it was just for pain. We didn't know enough about ketamine. We didn't know it could knock somebody out and make them paralyzed and stuff like that. See, with the meds that she was on, it basically killed her. And the doctor from pediatrics hospice, they said it was because of her Ewing sarcoma cancer. I don't buy that, because I told them that her pee was turning like an apple juice color. They didn't care. Her heart rate was going too fast. They didn't care. I talked to 3 attorneys and they said they couldn't help. It would be hard to fight that because she had cancer. She didn't deserve to die like that. Our family didn't deserve to see that. She wanted to go to the hospital and they pushed her not to. Me and my husband said we were going to call 911 and they were like, no, it's her decision. Mariah was not alert enough to make those decisions on her own. Because if they gave me and my husband the rights to make decisions for her, she would still be here. She wouldn't have gone through all that crap. We would have done what she wanted. She wanted alternative medicine, and the doctor said no, it wouldn't work. People have been using alternative medicine for centuries. Marijuana was originated from Asia and some other country, I can't remember. I gotta thank the Asians for that, though. I mean, that stuff does help for anxiety and pain. It does. I'm not gonna deny I don't do it, because I do. There's a lot of people. It's legalized in my state. Just because it's not legalized in yours, I don't know what to tell you. You're in a red zone state. It's not my fault that blue states have it legalized. It's because our states actually know that marijuana you cannot overdose on. And people that say, well, my family member started acting crazy, this and that, they probably had mental problems before that. Or they're probably on marijuana when it's laced. Or the percentage of it is too high. See, there's different percentages when you go to dispensaries. There's the very low one. I think it's like 15%. And then the highest one's like at 29, 30, something like that. And then you have the medical one with the medical card. It's probably a little higher than that. But they're not forcing people to buy the ones that are too high for them. Do you know how dumb that sounds? I mean, the people that bitch and complain about marijuana are the ones that don't do it. I admit I was kind of like one of those years ago when I went to college, years ago when I was younger. I was 18 years old. I was one of those ones that was like, I don't know anything about it, but I'm not for dispensaries. And I learned over the years from other people I did a lot of research on it, and know people that have done marijuana, weed, green, whatever you want to call it, pot. The old saying, Mariah did do the edibles, and it did help her. But towards the end, she couldn't eat, so she couldn't try those. She couldn't even swallow her pills. I couldn't even give her etoposide because of that. It's like those hospice people don't want to listen. They're like, we're trying to make her comfortable. We're trying to make her comfortable. No, you're trying to kill her. You're trying to make her lose her life faster. That's what you did. I even told the nurses at UNM Pediatrics, I was like, you guys need to watch these kids when they're taking certain meds. Mariah suffered. She did. She suffered. She was in pain. She was writing her second book for this one. The end of the road, she was doing that. 4 chapters in, and her hands were hurting. I wish I would have typed her story for her. I wish she would have given me that chance because I would have done it. But she was in pain. And when she didn't press those buttons because she had double port on the right side, when she didn't push those buttons, she was alert. She was watching shows with her brothers and her little sister. She would play video games with her brothers, like Fortnite and Minecraft, Mortal Kombat, WWE games. She was even playing Disney Dream Life Valley. She loved that one. I can't get myself to play her Switch because I just don't want to mess that up. Because I don't want to touch that game. I just want to keep it as is because it's like she's still here. And I can't even go past one of the episodes on Golden Girls on, Hulu, whatever. Because that was the last time she laughed. And she smiled. That day before. And that night I was cleaning her up. I had to change her and stuff like that. And I told Mariah, come on, lean over, come on, you can do it, you can do it. And she did. And I told her I loved her. And she said, I love you, Mom. At 4 o'clock in the morning, I told Mariah, I love you. She said, I love you, Mom. A week before, I told her that I was worthless. She told me it wasn't. She told me that I wasn't worthless. She said that I was a good mom and that she loved me. I miss her. We all miss her. But in her memory, we are honoring her wishes because she wanted the world to read her book so they wouldn't feel like they're alone. So you can go on Amazon, Walmart, eBay, Barnes and Noble, etc. I know it's online, like UK stores or Asian stores, or there's different ones online that City Book Publishing sent her book out to, and it's hard. This is her legacy. This book is her legacy, and she left it behind. And whenever you read it, it's like you can imagine yourself there. And the character on the book, her name's Carl Anika Medinoche, and she went through so much from these girls. And when you read it, it talks about how she thought these girls were her friends. She was going to get married to this prince she was in love with. He was in love with her. She goes back to like this room, and she saw this girl and this other girls walk in. She's like, "Oh, are you here to check on me? Did the prince send you here?" And mom says no. And one of the girls was jealous of her because that other girl was in love with the prince. The prince wasn't in love with this other girl. A horrible tragedy happens to Caronica Medinoche. Um, they stab her to death. And Mariah, she got that from what she went through with girls picking on her and putting her in the middle, and it wasn't right, you know. In high school, she was 15. They had COVID going on. Kids had to stay home, had to do school online. She didn't want to go back when they said it was okay. Because she was like, "Mom, I just don't want to go back." And we said she didn't have to. But there's a lot of tragedy in this book. I mean, it's like it's a mystery. Like it's pulls you in, and you're like, you want more of it. Like, what is going on with these people? And there's an investigator named Lansky, and she investigates, and she's trying to figure out what is going on with everything that's going on. And I'm not going to go into detail because you need to read the book. And it's dedicated to her in her memory, and that's our younger son Tyler, who needs to go get a shirt on. I know. I love you too. Sorry, but he does. Boys, they do that. Some people take it the wrong way, but boys, they get hot, and it's okay for them to be shirtless, but when it's girls, it's like totally different. It's like we have to wear our shirts. Like, why do guys get a chance to do that? And some guys don't even look good like that. I mean, could you imagine women doing that? I mean, there's like crazy people. Well, anyways, I gotta go. Hope everybody has a good day.